Okay, so we got a ton of requests to do a deep dive on this one. And honestly, I'm so pumped to unpack it with you.
Yeah, this is a big one for sure.
Like thousands of words, all about acing that first date and making a killer first impression.
And specifically through English communication, right?
English is the name of the game.
Which is so key nowadays. Even if it's your first language, those little nuances can make or break things.
Totally. And we're going to sift through all this gold and give you those nuggets, those actionable things you can actually use.
Exactly, because who has time to wade through pages and pages of info?
Nobody's got time for that. So our mission today is to arm you with the knowledge to walk into that first date feeling like $1,000,000.
Confident, ready to connect, and using your English skills to really make that impression.
Because those first few moments really do set the tone, right? It's like the foundation for everything that comes after.
Absolutely. It's like that first data point your date's using to get a sense of who you are and whether there's potential there.
And good communication helps you control that narrative no matter where you're from or what your background is.
It's about putting your best foot forward, and English is the tool to do that.
Okay, so let's dive into the prep work, because our source material emphasizes looking inward first, understanding your strengths and what you bring to the table.
Yeah, it's not about pretending to be someone you're not. That never works.
Right, it's about owning who you are and feeling good about it.
Exactly. Think of it as getting in touch with your own internal compass before you even head out the door.
I love that. So what are you genuinely passionate about? What are your values?
Because when you know those things, you communicate in a way that's authentic and that attracts people who vibe with the real you.
It's not a performance. It's about showcasing the best version of yourself.
Exactly. And, you can even jot down a couple things you're really into, not to memorize or anything, but just to have them top of mind.
Such a good tip. And then there's the more logistical stuff, like researching the venue.
Right. And this is more than just knowing the address. It can actually give you convo starters.
Yeah, that's what I thought was so interesting, is it's like doing a little recon mission.
Totally. Like if it's a jazz club, maybe you casually mention your favorite artist. Or if it's a cafe known for its art, you've already got something to talk about.
Shows you're thoughtful and attentive to detail.
And it goes beyond just the meeting place. It shows you put in a little effort.
Okay, so now our source talks about outlining goals for the date, which at first sounds a little too structured, but it's not about having a script, is it?
No way. It's more about setting intentions for yourself. What do you want to get out of this?
Right, like what are you hoping to achieve?
Maybe it's just having a fun chat, getting to know someone new, seeing if their sense of humor clicks with yours.
Or their values even.
Exactly, and having these things in mind can actually make you less nervous, more grounded.
And don't forget, a key goal should always be to create a relaxed and comfortable vibe for both of you.
Totally, it's a two-way street.
Okay, so you've done the prep work, you're feeling good, now comes the actual interaction. And our guide dives deep into building your English vocab, specifically for dating.
Right, because it's not just everyday language. There are some phrases that are really helpful for making those initial connections.
So give us the goods. What are some of those must-know phrases?
Well, a warm and genuine "Hi, it's so nice to finally meet you" goes a long way.
Yeah, that sets a good tone.
And instead of just "How are you?" try something like "How has your week been treating you?"
Oh, I like that it's more specific and inviting.
It shows you're interested in their well-being, not just going through the motions.
And then we get to the descriptive language, which I think is so powerful. Our guide talks about using adjectives for both appearance and emotions.
Oh yeah, like instead of just "You look nice," you could say someone looks striking or elegant.
It paints a picture, right?
Exactly. And same with expressing your own feelings. Instead of "That sounds interesting," try "I'm really excited to hear more about that."
It just adds so much more depth and makes you more engaging.
It shows you're not just passively listening, you're actively participating.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting. Conversational idioms like break the ice or hit it off.
Ah, yes. Using those makes your English sound so much more natural and fluent.
But our source also warns against overdoing slang.
Right, because slang is so dependent on context, it can sound out of place or even inauthentic if you're not using it correctly.
Yeah, it's like adding too much spice to a dish. It can be overpowering.
Exactly. When in doubt, especially early on, it's best to stick with more standard English.
Okay, so you've got some key phrases in your arsenal now for the moment of truth, the introduction, and our source is all about making it warm and confident.
It's more than just saying your name, it's your whole presence,
Break it down for us.
Smile that reaches your eyes, make eye contact, but don't stare them down.
Keep it natural.
Right. And when you say, "Hi, I'm your name, it's a pleasure to meet you," Say it with warmth and clarity.
And our guide even suggests adding a little observation like, I really like the ambiance of this place.
It's a natural way to ease into conversation, not forced.
Okay, and after the initial hello, you need to break the ice with some small talk.
The classics are always good, the weather, the venue, but the key is to transition to open-ended questions.
Give us some examples, because I think a lot of people struggle with this.
Instead of, is it nice out today? Try, what's been the highlight of your day so far?
Ooh, I like that one.
Or if you're at a restaurant, you could ask, what made you choose this place?
It encourages a more detailed response and gives you more to work with.
Exactly, it shows you're genuinely curious.
And to make yourself more relatable, our guide suggests sharing a little personal anecdote.
Keep it short and sweet, though. Nothing too heavy or personal for a first meeting.
Like that example in the guide about the cooking disaster that made you appreciate restaurants?
Exactly. It's a bit of humor, a bit of vulnerability, just the right amount.
Now let's talk about the nonverbal stuff, because that's a huge part of first impressions. We all know about eye contact and smiling, but our source goes deeper.
Yeah, body language is so powerful. We communicate so much without even saying a word.
So what are some things to keep in mind?
Well, consistent eye contact shows you're engaged, but don't make it creepy,
Those staring contests.
A genuine smile is always welcoming. And then think about your posture. An open stance, shoulders relaxed, shows you're approachable.
And what about gestures? Our guide talks about using them naturally.
Yeah, you don't want to look like a robot.
Like you're rehearsing for a play.
Just use your hands naturally to emphasize points. Make your conversation more animated.
It adds a visual element to your words.
And there's this cool thing called mirroring, where you subtly match your date's body language, which can create a sense of connection.
I've heard of that it's subconscious but powerful.
Yeah. And then, of course, there's appearance. Dress for success is a big one.
But it's not about wearing designer labels, right?
No, it's about dressing appropriately for the occasion and feeling good in what you're wearing.
Your outfit is a visual cue.
Yeah.
It shows respect for yourself and the date.
And don't forget, grooming and accessories. Those little details matter.
Okay, so you've nailed the intro. Your body language is on point. Now, how do you keep the conversation flowing and make it engaging?
Open-ended questions are your best friend.
We're back to those, huh?
They're so crucial because they invite a dialogue, not just a one-word answer.
Like instead of, do you like movies?
You could say, what kind of stories really resonate with you in film and why?
Boom, you've just opened up a whole world of conversation.
And it shows you're interested in more than just surface-level stuff.
And once they start sharing, it's all about active listening.
Which is more than just waiting for your turn to talk.
Right, you have to be present, really tuned in to what they're saying.
Nodding, maintaining eye contact, little verbal cues like, I see, or that makes sense.
And summarizing what they said shows you're really listening. So it sounds like that experience was challenging, but ultimately rewarding.
Exactly, you're reflecting their words back to them, showing you get it.
And to build on that connection,
Yeah.
our guide talks about sharing personal stories.
Vulnerability is key. It makes you relatable and lets them see different sides of you.
But there's a balance, right? You don't want to dominate the conversation.
It's a dance. You share a bit, they share a bit.
This might sound weird, but
Yeah.
our source even mentions the importance of silence.
Yeah, pauses can be a good thing,
It's not about filling every second with chatter.
Comfort with silence shows confidence. It gives you both time to process what's been said.
But obviously, you want to avoid those long, awkward silences.
It's a fine line.
Okay, let's get into some advanced strategies. Humor is a big one, but it can be tricky on a first date.
Humor can be amazing for building rapport. Lightening the mood.
But you got to be careful.
Gauge their sense of humor, stick to lighthearted stuff. Self-deprecating humor is usually good.
Nothing offensive or controversial.
And timing is everything. Don't force it.
And then there's expressing emotions with depth.
It's not just saying you're happy, it's using more descriptive language.
Give us some examples.
Instead of I was happy, say I was absolutely thrilled.
That's good.
Or instead of that was sad, say that experience was deeply moving.
It just adds so much more nuance and sincerity.
And don't be afraid to show a little vulnerability when appropriate.
Now, given how interconnected the world is these days, cultural nuances are more important than ever, even if you're both speaking English.
Oh, for sure. Cultural sensitivity is huge.
What are some things to be mindful of?
Communication styles. For one, some cultures are more direct than others.
Yeah, and certain topics might be off limits in certain cultures.
You also want to be aware of different dating norms.
It shows respect and a genuine interest in their background.
And maybe even learn a few phrases in their language if you can.
This is a nice touch. Our guide also has a section on common pitfalls, those easy-to-make mistakes.
Oh yeah, like over-talking versus under-talking.
Finding that balance is key.
You don't want to dominate the conversation, but you also don't want to be a wallflower.
It's about sharing the stage,
Another pitfall is lack of preparation.
which is why we talked about having those conversation starters ready.
Exactly. Those can be lifesavers when there's a lull in the conversation.
And then there's inappropriate language or humor.
Yeah, that's a big no-no, especially on a first date.
Just be respectful, read the room,
Always err on the side of caution.
And lastly, our guide emphasizes being adaptable, going with the flow.
Because sometimes the best conversations happen organically,
You might have your prepared topics, but you got to be willing to deviate.
Be a good listener and let the conversation unfold naturally.
Our source even includes some brief, real-life examples to illustrate these points, like a successful coffee date built on good questions, someone overcoming their nerves by being vulnerable, even bridging cultural differences through communication.
These examples show that these aren't just theories, they're real strategies that can lead to amazing connections.
And to help you even more, our guide lists a bunch of tools and resources.
Like language learning apps, podcasts, YouTube channels, even classic books.
There's something for everyone.
These can help you expand your vocab work on pronunciation, understand conversational nuances.
And don't underestimate the power of just watching English movies and TV shows.
Yeah, you absorb so much just by listening to natural dialogue.
And our guide also suggests some exercises you can do to practice.
Like practicing your intro in the mirror, recording yourself speaking, doing language exchanges with native speakers.
It's all about getting comfortable and confident.
The more you practice, the more natural it'll feel when you're on the actual date.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into making a killer first impression using English, it's clear that it's not just about language. It's about emotional intelligence, cultural awareness, and good communication skills.
It's about being your authentic self and creating a genuine connection.
And remember, every first date is a chance to learn and discover something new.
About yourself and the other person.
Here's a final thought for you. Imagine focusing on just one or two of these techniques, like asking more open-ended questions or really paying attention to your body language.
Even small changes can make a huge difference.
Think about how those shifts could change the whole dynamic of your next first date and what kind of amazing connections you might make.
Experiment, have fun, and see what happens.
Thanks for diving deep with us.
Catch you next time.